correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPGs, a podcast where me and my friend Steve...
We're playing games this time.
Alright, Joe. It's time for another Me and Steve actual play campaign to start. I know some of you have been waiting more patiently than others. So, this campaign is going to be using the Exalted RPG from, I believe it's Onyx Path Publishing. Obviously, me and Steve have no affiliation with them. It is just a game system that we've been introduced to, and we quite enjoyed. Decurion, who GM'd the Tomb of Dreams one-shot that we broadcast a while back, wanted to do this, and so we put together a crew to play the game and started recording it. Now, for those of you, well, let's say unfamiliar with our podcast, maybe, this is your first time coming to listen to us, we intentionally try to present it much more as a recording of us actually playing the game, as opposed to trying to, like super clean it up, make it sound real polished, produced. It's much more intended as, here's what you could have a game sound like realistically at your table. Now, yes, I do go through and edit it. I take out some of the, extra silence, maybe some overtalk, some stuff like that. I'm putting music beds behind it. In this case, those will be sourced from tabletopaudio.com, which is a wonderful resource if you're looking for that type of material. So go check them out. But I just wanted to take a minute to say that, like I said, we're not trying to put out a hyper-polished actual play. If that's what you're here for, if you're here for an audio drama, look, it's not what we do. But this is us playing a game, and it's been very fun, and so we wanted to share it with you. Other things, we started recording this in April of 2025. We're playing, give or take, monthly, as, we all know the scheduling stuff. So we try and play monthly. We record, give or take, 4 hours at a time. I am going to break that up into, hopefully, hour-ish segments, kind of wherever the break feels right in the recording is probably where I'll break for episodes. So, again, this is very much a recording of a game we played, not something that we set out to make a production of. So if that's what you're after, I hope you'll listen and enjoy. And like I said, this is Exalted. Decurion has elected to call the name of the campaign Ruby and Fire. And also, just by way of note, obviously, as I mentioned, Dec is the GM. Cast is Finn Breakwater, played by Sarcastic Smiley Face, or you may hear him occasionally referred to as Dave. Firamar Saelen is played by Jen. Mofid Parviz is played by the other Steve from Me and Steve. Pale Nimbus is played by Logan from the Story Told podcast. And I am playing Wondrous Cyclone. So, as things are, this first recording, neither Firamar Saelen nor Pale Nimbus were there yet. In fact, I believe it's a couple of recordings before Nim comes in, but they'll be joining eventually, and I may do another, talk intro before that. But in any case, I'm going to wrap this up, and, like I mentioned, thanks to Tabletop Audio for the ambience, backing tracks, all that fun stuff. Thanks to Decurion for running it. Thanks to Jen, Dave, Logan, and Steve for joining in and playing all this. Thanks to them all for joining and playing and letting us record it. So, with that said, enjoy.
Before we begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge something important. The setting of this campaign, Origin, is inspired by West African cultures, histories, and aesthetics. None of the players, and certainly not myself, have lived experience or even ancestry from that part of the world. While Origin is part of the canonical setting for Exalted, I've drawn on real-world West African traditions to help bring the setting more fully to life. This isn't meant to be an accurate historical or cultural portrayal, and it is definitely not a commentary on any real-world nations, peoples, or beliefs. One key difference is theological. While Timbuktu and the surrounding regions were deeply shaped by the arrival of Islam, Exalted has its own divine and mythological structure that plays out very differently. My hope is to approach these inspirations with respect and care, and I welcome feedback if I fall short. In the session notes, there will be a short list of resources to learn about the real history of West Africa and the Sahel. Thank you. All right. I guess we can start playing then. All right. So as you can see on Roll20, I've got the regional map, and I have adjusted the scale on that map so that if you wish to measure distances using Roll20's native tools, you certainly can. Okay, so the basic situation is this. Steve's character, Mofid Parviz, has a map. It is in an ancient dialect. It is also encoded in some way, and the parts you've been able to puzzle out seem to refer to star locations that make no sense. And Parviz knows stars. He's from the Varang city-states, and astrology is a real big thing. So these star locations make no sense, which is one reason you think it's encoded. But you have determined that the area that the map displays is somewhere to the far south and near the Fire Peak Mountains, which is the range of mountains on the left side of the map here. It was suggested that the best place to go to decipher anything written in that general area is the city of Kandara, which has a great library. The kind of library that the library board of directors are also the city council. That's how important this library is to the city. And for several centuries, they've been accumulating all kinds of texts and studying them. But since you guys were up on the Sinashore coast when you got together, you needed to make your way somehow, because just strolling a couple thousand miles across desert wasn't really going to happen. So the way that worked was that you found a gentleman named Silver Owl who was going to Origin. Origin is a major hub of trade routes from the Mayu coast and the mines of gem and areas further south, and agricultural products from the north. It's there's gems, there's gold, there's a lot of valuable stuff down there, and they're trading for luxuries and things that they can't grow down there. So you have traveled with this caravan for about 3 months before arriving at the city of Origin, and it was 3 months of being hot, being dusty, sand everywhere, and the worst part of it all is the caravan is all camels, and camels smell bad and have a worse attitude. Seeing that you guys were not entirely normal people, especially your thief, Wonderful Cyclone, and his very obviously magical chakram. And so we will now, the camera pans in on our group as you have come to the city of Origin. There's a festival happening in a week. It's a combination of religious and merchants, and it's a big trade fair. People are coming from all over, and so because you are quote unquote part of the caravan, you've got passes to be in the city for the week before the festival, the week of the festival, and for 3 days afterwards. After that, you'll just have to re-register, and they just like to know where foreigners are staying, basically, and what you're up to in the city. Um, Kandara is a couple hundred miles away, but yeah, it's a little over 200 miles away. But Silver Owl says, of course, there will be Kandaran merchants here, and you can go with one of them after the festival's concluded. You can travel with that caravan. That's a pretty. Most people prefer to travel with a caravan because there's guards, and you're less likely to get robbed than if it's just three people strolling along. He had also agreed to pay you all as guards for the 3 months that you were with him, and has paid you in the local currency, very small silver coins, and also small quantities of gold dust. So you're basically at loose ends, and you're right outside. There's your caravanserai right outside the city where he is. He's arranged for lodging for all of the people with his caravan, and they're downloading the camels and setting up the tent for the festival and all the usual caravan stuff. And the last thing he says is, well, if you've never seen Origin, it's not to be missed. This is a city unlike any other that you're likely to visit. There you are.
So I think go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think the first thing, as soon as we've arrived at Origin, that Parviz is going to try and do is he is going to get himself sort of cleaned up, changed into some more. I imagine he has a clean set of robes and attire. Get his hair unmatted and work with Farouk and get himself sort of settled in here and cleaned up and ready to meet the city.
All right.
Yeah, I'd imagine he's probably headed towards whatever, if lodging entails a shower, he would love that.
Not quite a shower, but
a bath, anything.
There is water. There are baths. It'll cost you for a heated bath, but if you just want a cold soak, that's easy enough.
How much is a heated bath?
It's a trivial expense.
Okay, he'll spare it.
Okay. Yeah, that's one other thing about this city is that there are complex systems of aqueducts that you could see that coming into the city. There's complex series of aqueducts. So even though they are in a place whose climate is much like the Sahel, south of the Sahara in Africa, in the real world, then it is there's not a shortage of water in the city. They're not wasteful. Part of their culture is to be careful about using water, but there's water for some things, and there's water for the necessities, and there are even a handful of fountains. So I'm going to assume that pretty much everybody wants to get a little cleaned up from the road.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
Cool. So once everybody has gone and taken care of their personal hygiene, maybe gotten a little bit to eat or whatever, and gotten dressed, what do we see? Who do we see? I mean, we can start with. I could say we could start with Steve, but that's. We can start with the Steve who plays Parviz can describe Parviz.
Yeah. So, the Parviz that you saw on the trail is not the one that you're seeing here in Origin. Sort of, he was, very plainly clothed. Now that he's cleaned up and ready to meet the city, he's definitely has some very bright, I'll say sort of white with gold and silver trimmed accents, sort of long cloak, tall man with a longer white goatee, hair pulled and tamed, and just someone who carries themselves as very regal.
All right. So, other Steve, what's Wonderful Cyclone look like?
So I think he's someone. You had said he's kind of obviously magical. I think that probably more comes out as you get to know him.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps because I think physically he's almost notably unremarkable. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
roughly average height, um, slim athletic build, but not like
Mm-hmm.
exceptionally anything. Not massive or whatever. I think clothing wise, very kind of almost utilitarian. Not flashy, loose fitting.
Mm-hmm.
Some robes, that type of thing. Kind of probably shoulder length hair that is almost like like we had talked blue, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking like a blue, almost like the color of storm clouds. You know,
Okay.
bluish
Yeah, grayish blue.
gray. Yeah. Some streaks in that of maybe more gray or silver ish colors. Um, probably probably has just shaved, but typically has a couple days worth of scruff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but being as we just had a good first opportunity in a while, is probably now clean shaven.
All right. And Sarcastic. What
Yeah.
does Finn Breakwater look like?
He probably by contrast, he's pretty obvious. He's a very large individual. Probably standing somewhere like 6'7", just very large.
Mm-hmm.
He obviously has clothing that's not from this area. He has almost a tartan that's kind of green and with like a kind of a gold plaid to it that he's wearing. It's actually one of the few. I mean, it's of the clothing. It's actually fairly well kept.
Mm-hmm.
He's wearing kind of an open white shirt. He does have a little bit of a belly
Uh-huh.
that extends over like a broad belt that has a cutlass and a flame piece that does look a little
Mm-hmm.
unusual. It's not kind of your normal one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he has kind of red and white hair, kind of extending back to the mid of his back. He's got it pulled back in a ponytail now. By bath, he probably kind of dumped some water over him and kind of like pulled his hair back and combed it a little bit. He's got a beard that extends down to his mid chest. He was probably very quick to try to find a drink and a bit of
Ah.
food to eat. Um, and he's kind of he is very much taken to the city just to see the sights. He's very into
Mm-hmm.
not so much immersing himself in the culture, but having to seeing what it has to offer. He looks actually quite excited to be here and definitely away from the camels and the rather boring affair of looking at sand dunes all day.
Yeah. Yeah. And there are two companions that accompany your group. One of them is Mofid Parviz has a friend by the name of Samarad Farouk, and as a reminder, exalted names tend to go family, then personal. So his friends call him Farouk. Officially, he might be Mr. Samarad, and he's looking at him and looking at Mofid Parviz. You can tell they are from a similar social class. They're from the similar group, and they have an easy familiarity that makes you think they have known each other for a very long time, if not, since childhood. He rarely speaks loudly, but when he says something, he says it with a great deal of certainty and confidence. Also, you guys have seen him on the trip many times making measurements of stars in the evening. Um, the other companion, so to speak, is one that started following Wonderful Cyclone around. And did you have a name for him, or are we just going with my placeholder?
I think we just pluralize it. I kind of like the
Okay.
irony of that.
Um, yeah, everybody just calls him Spots. He's a hyena. But he's not an ordinary little dog sized hyena. No, he's a cave hyena. Is more than double the size of most other hyena species. And he made friends with Wonderful Cyclone along the way and has been following you all. It It's kind of terrifying for some of the camels, but he hasn't like actually tried to eat any of them. Occasionally he'll just show up in the morning and be eating something, and half the time you're not even sure what it is anymore because he's mauled so thoroughly. But he's following Wonderful Cyclone around, sort of like a puppy, but if a puppy were the size of a horse and had atrocious breath. Yeah. So those are y'all's companions, and you guys are headed into the city. You enter into the city of Origin. Origin is a walled city, and obviously it's hot. Same heat as the desert. But inside the city are colors, sounds, and scents that are probably outside a lot of y'all's experiences. The city gates themselves are made of wood, sun-bleached, very dried out, with bronze fittings, but it's a statement of wealth and power to have such large wooden doors, obviously made of imported lumber, because a lot of the trees here are not suitable for making giant city gates. The main street that you're entering on, it's wide and it's bustling. It's paved with a mix of red gravel and stones, but it's all worn down as if by, well, not as if, it's all worn down by centuries of traffic, animal, wagon, cart, human. And the architectural style is towering mud brick buildings with ochre walls, all of which have wooden beams, dark wooden beams that stick out like ribs. And the first thing that comes to your mind is, wow, it's really easy to climb up to the roof. There are colorful cloth awnings that stretch between rooftops or out in front of the buildings. And in here you see and hear evidence of the trade, that you hear a dozen languages, all related, most of them related, but a dozen languages, cartwheels, donkeys being very upset that they have to carry things. You even catch the soft melody of a flute from a shaded doorway, and you also see something a little startling, which is a lion strolling down the street, and there are two human scribes taking notes. Apparently the lion is dictating something to them. And the smells, there's lamb fat sizzling over charcoal from the street vendors of food. There's coriander, dried limes, but there's also clay dust and damp straw and incense. People are dressed in a huge variety of styles. Indigo robes, which you see seem to be associated with upper class, nobility, but there's also silks from the coast, the leathers of desert nomads, beaded jewelry, bronze, and all around you can hear traders arguing, children running around. This is not a dusty border town, and this is a place of commerce and culture. And as you are taking it all in, you are approached by a native of the city, a young man. We might call him a teen, but he's almost old enough to. He is almost old enough to be considered a man, at least by many standards. And he's dressed not as an urchin, not as somebody who's poor, but as somebody who is can afford quality clothes, but chooses only practical ones. And he bows and says, "Travelers from distant lands, the winds of fortune must be strong to carry you here. I'm Kaleo, son of Mazan, called the Little Bat. I know Origin's ways, its secrets, and its dangers. If you would walk these streets with ease, I offer my guidance, for even the bold may stumble where the ground is unknown." He is offering to serve as a guide.
Well, local help or knowledge is always useful.
He smiles.
Look to the other two.
I think we could always use a little help, especially in a new town.
Indeed, there are many strange customs that many foreigners have, and so to them, our ways must seem just as strange. But commerce is always smoothed by good manners, is it not?
Indeed.
He says, well then, what can I show you? What wonder do you seek in this great city?
Well, being as you're the local, what perhaps would be the most impressive thing? It certainly appears there are a great many wonders here.
Well, the most impressive things are the Palace of the Prince and the Assembly. Both of them are, I would say, not something you could stroll through, but they are certainly the largest and most heavily decorated buildings in the city. There are also the temples of the gods. Masingala's temple is particularly fine, but I find that the most interesting and impressive thing in this city is the marketplace. Fortunes are won and lost in a moment, but it's all up to what do you wish to see. I can take you to the finest food in the city. I can take you to the finest beer in the city. I could take you to whatever pleases you.
I think at this point, Wonderful Cyclone kind of looks around at what is clearly quite an impressive street fair and goes, well, if your average streets look like this, I can hardly wait to see what a market in such a town would look like, such a city.
This is but the gate market. This is a small place for mostly for people who do business that meets the immediate needs of travelers. And he points out, this one sells clothing, and that one sells, that one sells fodder for animals, so on and so forth. He says, if you think this is impressive, wait until the festival Adamant Sulrak. It is both a celebration of the god of commerce and activity over which he has many other activities which are within his purview. But what brings you to Origin in the first place? You do not appear to be ordinary merchants.
I think at this point, Cyclone kind of looks to the other two. I feel like at this point he's honestly more accompanying them than on a direct purpose of his own.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Parviz is going to speak up and go, oh, but a mere stop in dear travels.
Ah, a mere stop. Where do you plan to go from here? On to the Wonders of Gem?
Yes, on to the Wonders of Gem, through the Wonders of Kandara.
Kandara? Then are you a scholar?
Of ways.
One who... well, I have been told that the library is amazing.
As have
and he
I.
laughs. And he laughs. I've been told this by one who used to be a librarian. My aunt.
Oh, I would love to meet your aunt at some point then.
Then I could take you there now, to her shop. She sells books and maps and old parchments. She says she likes to keep her hand in, since she has left what she refers to as the snake pit that is library politics.
Fair. Is she a cartographer herself?
She has maps. She knows much about them, more than anyone else that I know.
Well then, unless there's objection, I know me and my would love to meet your aunt. I can always use a good map.
No objections from me.
Finn is kind of like handing some money over for a food vendor and just sort of looks over and is like, lead the way, little bat.
I would imagine that Parviz would have had a conversation with him prior to that to be like, if you find meat on a stick, I'll take meat on a stick. Like you find a nice kebab place, I'll take one.
There is a variety of meat on a stick. Goat, lamb, some beef. Beef's a little pricey, but not inordinately so. Chicken, fish.
Definitely lamb. He would have the preference for lamb, but whatever you grab me.
Yeah, meat on a stick would be good. Also, going to get a chicken or spots because that seems to keep him occupied a bit.
Your youthful guide sort of looks at Spots a little dubiously and says, "Is he tame?"
He seems rather
He hasn't
well
bit anyone
behaved.
yet.
Feed him occasionally, and he's behaved well. Certainly didn't bother the rest of the caravan on the way here.
Of course.
I'm gonna reach up and scratch him behind the ear.
So he takes you through some winding roads and alleys, and now past a place, past a couple of buildings where you can see what the purpose of those poles are, because there are crews up replastering the mud bricks. They're using the poles to both as a ladder and also to raise buckets of plaster. And they're replastering the bricks of some buildings, and he eventually takes you in to a small shop. Now, this shop is a little bit unusual in that it has considerably larger, it has somewhat larger windows than many of the other buildings. The windows tend to be somewhat narrow, and the walls are thick. And as soon as you step in, the first thing that you notice is it's about 15-20 degrees cooler in there than it is on the street. The thickness of the walls. Also, this place is very well lit with lamps, and there is a lion, an old male lion, just sort of sprawled on the floor. Not sprawled, sort of like lounging on the floor. He lifts his head, looks at you, and goes, "Huh," and sort of just watches you all. The proprietor of the shop is middle-aged woman, white hair, and little bows slightly and says, "Auntie, I've brought you some people with an interest in old papers." And she says, "You scamp. We'll see. Don't think I'm giving them too much of a discount because of you."
No discount necessary.
She says, "I am Sangara Kumba. I am the proprietor of this shop, and if you would let me know what you are looking for, I could probably help you find it." The place is packed. Like, there are shelves basically lining every wall, and they are scrolls, codexes, maps in leather cases, like you name it. If it is a written way to convey information, she has it.
I think at that point, I feel I should introduce myself. I am Parviz. This is Farouk, along with some traveling friends of mine, and I will leave it up to them to introduce themselves. But I have come to understand you are from, I can't see the name of the city.
Kandara.
Mm-hmm. And have an understanding of old maps. I have acquired an old map myself, and was looking to maybe have a little more of an understanding.
At this, the lion sort of perks up, and she also sits back and says, "Well, as long as..." She sits back and goes over to the side and starts making tea. She says, "Well, if we're going to talk seriously, and she continues. She just continues making the making tea.
So I think at this point, Cyclone is really just sort of looking about, but also, now when you said large windows, are these open windows? Are these glassed windows?
Oh no, they are open windows.
I think honestly it is more letting Parviz speak with this woman. He will, introduce himself to be cordial or whatever, but it is more looking about, but also just looking out the window and watching the goings on the street, just because it's a new city and wants to see what happens here.
I'm sorry, just 1 second. I'm fixing a 9-year-old's emergency.
No, I'm very familiar with that sort of thing. After a few moments, she says, "Many bring me scraps, hoping for golden words, but meaning is not always within reach, and effort demands compensation."
Well, I'm sure compensation can be approved, and we can absolutely come up to some amicable agreement.
And she says, "Well, let me see the text. Let me see if this is within my knowledge."
On one condition. You share a cup of your tea with me.
Excellent. And she does. She offers you the tea, and she pours two additional cups, 3 additional cups for your human companions. She does not offer. The hyena is kind of like sitting out on the street because he's like, "No, this looks too much like a trap. I'm not going in there."
I think as she's setting the cup down in front of him, he sort of motions over to Farouk to bring him the map.
And Farouk hands it over, and you can see her fingers twitch like she wants to get her hands on this.
Parviz gives it an inquisitive look, sort of hands her the map.
And she smooths it out, looks at it, and the lion sits up and looks at it as well. And Kumba says, "Well, this is old, but not lost, this script. It was written with great skill, very interesting. Normally, for a simple inscription, I would say 3 dinars. This is not a simple inscription. Perhaps 25? Now, for comparison, that is like 2 years' salary, or that is like 2 years' worth of pay for an average laborer. She just asked for a boatload of, not a boatload, but a significant amount of money. You can do it given your resources too, but you would probably know that that is kind of an exorbitant ask."
That seems a bit strong for something that is not completely lost.
"But it is lost to you, and they say knowledge can be more valuable than gold."
I think at that point, Cyclone kind of clears his throat and says, "Hey, but knowledge without context is nothing more than trivia."
"In that, dear foreigner, we are agreed."
I think Parviz will sort of take a long sip of the tea. Is it like a green tea? Tell me a little bit about this tea that she poured.
It is a black tea, and it is heavily spiced, almost like a chai, almost like an Arabic style chai.
So I think he'll take a long breath in over the cup and then sort of take a sip. And he sort of thinks for a moment. He goes, I think we can agree. But maybe we could come down a little bit on the price. 20?
20? Huh. That is suitable.
I'm glad we would be able to be amicable. And I'm sure, not sure, but I would be pretty certain that he would have, between him and Farouk, he would have this on him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, resources too. She gestures to the lion. She says, and I should also introduce my my companion and peer, Horu the Bloodied. And the lion just sort of generally nods to y'all, and then comes over and starts examining the map as well.
So, just for context, I'm sure these lions aren't common, but they're not. They would be something known as a thing, not a total shock to us, right?
They are unique to Origin. You know that they, the connection, the pieces you would have is you've heard Little Bat refer to Masangala, the lion god, and people treat them with a great deal of respect, almost as if they are, almost like priests, or as if they themselves are holy.
Okay.
And Koru says, another copy of that report. And she says, indeed.
Report.
Yes, it is a description of a burial with a map to the site of the tomb. And at that point, Parviz gets a sudden flash of memory. Himself, but not himself. Himself in a different life, dressed totally differently, physically completely different. Looking at 3 people in armor and weapons and saying, "Look what you have come for." And that's it, just one quick flash. This, and if I understand these annotations correctly, I can tell you exactly where this tomb is.
Please.
It is in Mobara Sere. It is a cursed place here. And Little Bat says, Mobara Sere. Well, I know exactly where that is, and I'll take you there. You are strangers. Perhaps the spirits won't react so poorly to your intruding there. But I will take you close enough to see it, but I will not take you into it. You'll have to go on your own.
And I think as Little Bat says that, Parviz is going to sort of, and he'll finish the tea and just ask, spirits, tell me, as we are foreigners, I do not know much of your customs here. Tell me a little bit of what you know, what rumors, stories, any of that.
He says, no one goes in there. It is a forest that has been cursed. It is old. It's before. It was old and it was cursed long before this city was founded. It is said that those who go in do not come out. And Kumba says, indeed. He makes it sound like a ghost story, but it is true. There are things there that do not like being disturbed. And she looks at Little Bat and says, you go as far as the river stones, and not one step further. I will know. And he goes, you don't have to tell me, Auntie. I like my soul in my skin where it belongs.
Well, we've come this far, certainly bears at least some further investigation. I don't see, well, most stories have some bearing in fact, but I trust my own eyes more than ancient legend, or at least equally so.
She says, I have heard other things, that travelers who go near it are haunted by terrible dreams of death and bloodshed. If you must go, do not let foolish courage take others with you. And she glances at Little Bat, as if to say, no, seriously, if you take this kid in there, I will kill you.
No. I will ensure that Little Bat here does not continue further than where you have instructed him to. I believe in many things, but young ones should always respect and listen to, especially the elders, making like direct eye contact with Little Bat.
And he's like, you can see the smart remark form in his mouth, and you can see him just click his teeth together and go, as you say. It will be as you say.
Finn's gonna kind of just put like a very large hand down on his Little Bat's shoulder. And he's like, maybe another time. There's plenty of adventure out there for someone of your age.
He says, of course. I will say that Mabarasari is perhaps 2 hours from the city. Now, it's about noon. You could get there, handle your business, and get back before nightfall. It depends on how long your business at Mabarasari will take. You'll get there mid-afternoon. Or you could wait and do this later.
Is this Mabarasari a large forest, or?
Unless we want to enjoy, it is up to you two. If we wish to enjoy the city some longer time before we leave to go on a grand adventure, it is up to you. But I am always, willing to continue on with my journey.
And he says, I am at your service.
Well, is this forest, Mabarasari, is it a large area or fairly small?
He says, no, it is perhaps 2 miles by a mile.
Not insignificant, but not massive either.
Like a good way to work up a thirst.
Aye. Look at the other two of you and, well, I say we at least go look at the place.
We could.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I didn't have anything.
He says, if you do you wish to find some place to eat or drink before we go on such a journey?
A meal wouldn't be a terrible idea prior to a journey.
True. A good meal and a good drink makes the road a little more pleasant often.
He smiles and says, then I know the beer hut for you. So he takes you guys to a relatively nearby beer hut. A beer hut's just a term. It's a bar. It's kind of dug into the ground somewhat for cooling, but it's got the same thick walls and windows and whatnot. And as you go in, there are a number of small tables where people are drinking, eating, and playing what appear to be games of chance, dice, or board games that may be games of skill. And somebody who a teenager who bears a family resemblance to the gentleman behind the bar approaches you all and asks what you'll have. He says, I mean, aside from beer, obviously. And you can tell from the smells and whatnot, this beer is brewed on premises. But it's also a very odd beer. It doesn't smell like the normal beers that you're probably used to.
I mean, I feel like something along the lines of it, a hero or something, is probably common.
They do a lot of like flatbreads with meat and roasted vegetables and that sort of thing in them.
Yeah. That was what I was thinking.
I'll take one of those.
Yeah, and that's kind of the majority of what they serve here. This is definitely not the fine dining place. This is the and as the teenager runs off to go get the order, he says, Little Bat says, this place pulls the best pints. The best. Obviously not a pint. They'd be using some local measurement, but whatever. And after a while, the teenager comes back, first with cups of beer. And this beer is brownish pink with a cloudy texture and smells a little bit odd.
It's going to give it a very big whiff and then just kind of down the entire cup.
Yeah, it's got a slightly tangy and sour taste, and it's kind of on the lower end of ABV, 3 to 4%. This is sorghum beer with a significant amount of millet mixed in. That's kind of yeah. And
some fruity piss water. He's just going to kind of put it down.
They also have a limited amount of pure millet beer, which tends to be a real bready pills, basically, with a herbal aroma. So yeah, that's the beer that they serve here.
I think Parviz was apprehensive to try it at first until he saw you take down basically a whole pint. He takes a nice swig. It's quite good. Can I get and he looks at Farouk, and Farouk's just shaking his head. He's like, okay, never mind.
So is Little Bat also eating and drinking, or is he just...
Yes,
okay.
he is. He is. He is knocking it down.
I think, Cyclone probably seems a little more relaxed in this environment. Almost, like this is much more a place he's familiar with than a bookstore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think just, kind of chatting. And so how was it you came across this map anyway, again, Parviz? I seem to have forgotten. Sorry to throw you
That's
that
okay.
big of a chunk, but
for brevity's sake, I acquired it a few years ago. Felt quite a strong pull towards this map, and have just been given signs from God that this map is important to me. I feel as though we are headed in the right direction. Speaking of right direction, Little Bat.
Yes.
For your trouble of what you've done so far, I would like to, and he hands him a small coin purse with 5 dinar in it, give you half of what I'd like to pay you. Now, you take us to the river. You stay at the river, and I will give you an additional 10. You do not listen. You do not get paid.
He says, I'll stay at the river until you come out or until nightfall. I'll not stay that close to a cursed place at night.
Do not. If nightfall happens before we return, can you return multiple days to check for us?
He says, well, I could come in the morning, yes.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Come in the morning, stay till mid-noon. If we're not out by mid-noon, count us as dead and move on with your life.
He says, he clinks the silver and says, you've made that quite possible.
I thought it would.
You grossly overpaid him, by the way.
Oh, I know. I'm well aware. Parviz is trying to make a friend out of Little Bat here. So, doing it the way he knows best.
Yep. All right. So, the meal is excellent. The meat is spiced to perfection. This place is exactly as good as Little Bat claims it to be. And I know for a fact that Wonderful Cyclone will notice that that after you all pay for your food, the bartender will slip Little Bat a small coin. Gotta respect the grind.
Oh,
this kid is on it.
He's done good so far in my book.
Well, I mean, to a point, right? I think at that point, Cyclone is kind of almost mildly smiling and like, well, if he's got the thing going with this type of place, then he's on his game. He's not just trying. Also, just as we've been moving through the city, what kind of vibe is there as far as, obviously with any city with this much trade, there's going to be an underworld. Is it apparent, or does it appear that it is rather deep?
Oh, it is definitely deep. You've noticed that a number of the merchants have hired guards, and certainly the nobles that you've seen wearing the indigo robes and whatnot are frequently openly carrying weapons. You get the feeling that, and this is just a vibe, that being caught stealing around here is a good way to lose body parts, maybe up to and including your head. They don't seem like the sort of people that would play with that.
So petty crime is probably not a major thing here. Okay. Now,
embezzling? Yes. Predatory loan sharking? Yes, absolutely a thing. But pickpockets? Not worth it.
Right.
What do we do? White collar crimes around here.
Yes. Well, because if you do white collar crimes, you've got enough to bribe the judges.
Exactly.
Right.
Nobody made enough money to bribe a judge. Pickpocket.
I don't know. You'd be surprised.
And so are you guys gonna head out immediately post your meal?
I think so. I think that seems like.
So, you guys head out, and you're heading actually towards a local river, and you can tell there's a spot where the river used to run in one direction, but it's changed riverbed. It's changed path. You can tell because there's that bed of water smooth stones that sort of indicate the old river course. And that's where Little Bat says, "Here I stop." And he points off to the south. About 3-4 miles away, you can see something dark on the horizon, and it's a forest. And he says that is the Silent Forest, the Silent Grove. That is Mabara Sere. He says, "I go no further."
Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah, I would imagine Parviz would start humming a hymn and walking in that direction. Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @andrpgs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast, on Discord at Me and Steve RPGs, and as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.